Okay, so now it's time to start drilling down into the practicalities of how we put this film together. You now need to put together a list of the places you're going to go, when you're going to go there, the people you're going to speak to, where you're going to speak to them, and any other actors or elements that need to be put into production. You now need to choose your locations. What dates specifically are you going to travel on? You need to make the appropriate contacts. You need to reach out and agree a date, book the necessary travel, ensure that you have the necessary equipment, and get ready to get started. You also need to make sure, and this is very important, that you have an achievable set of goals. When you are shooting on location, things will take much longer than you think they will. You will be interrupted. For example, if you're shooting outside, a plane flying overhead will be picked up on your audio device and may drown out or distract your audience. Worse still, it might make it very difficult to edit audio later on. You might, for example, hear a plane flying overhead as a subject speaks. They might then go off onto a tangent, and by the time they come back, the plane has gone away. If you cut out that section in the middle where they go off on a tangent, that will be very audible, and very noticeable, and very distracting to your audience. Remember, you never want to remind your audience that they are watching a film. They should be immersed in the world that you create. They shouldn't be distracted by bad audio. When planning your production, you need to ensure that you are prepared to capture sufficient material to create a visually engaging piece. Remember that film, unlike most academic writing, is a visual medium. Your audience expects you to communicate visually, not just by using text or commentary. There are essentially three basic types of footage which you can plan to capture. Number 1. Interviews and subject footage. This can include on-screen presentations by the filmmakers or other relevant persons. It can include fly-on-the-wall style footage, in which you film a subject as they live their everyday lives or engage in other relevant activities. And it can include more dynamic exchanges or debates between relevant interlocutors. Number 2. B-roll, or more accurately, environmental footage. This involves the filming of incidental footage of people or the environment. These B-roll shots from our short piece, Aftermath, help to place our subjects into their spatial context, New York City. They also served a metaphorical purpose. When an emergency vehicle passes by and a school bus disappears down an uncertain road, a perfect metaphor was created which helped to complement our discussion about the uncertainty which surrounded the 2016 presidential election. The final type of footage which you may wish to capture are set pieces. These are complex, thematic, or contextually relevant sequences which you plan ahead of time and which will require the most careful and contrived execution in your whole project. These can include reenactments, animations, or staged presentations. They are likely to be the most complex, time-consuming, and, if you let them, monetarily expensive parts of your production. Remember that each of these footage types will take a lot of time to film, Outside noise, interruptions, inclement weather, and so on must all be accounted for as you develop your production plan and schedule. Carefully plan each type of footage which you wish to capture. Where will you go to capture B-roll and environmental footage? And how much time will you dedicate to that task? Interviews should be planned ahead of time, including shooting locations or any visual style which you wish to apply to them. You will also need to anticipate the amount of time that you will dedicate to capturing interviews. Remember, this does not just include the interview duration, but setup time, pack-up time, travel time, and so on. In the case of any set pieces which you wish to produce, you should plan them out as precisely and as meticulously as possible. If you wish to stage a reenactment, consider storyboarding it, drawing basic illustrations which represent every shot or angle which you intend to capture. A shot list, in which you write out a list of every single shot which you will need, will accomplish a similar end. Doing this will help to ensure that you are organised and that you will have a realistic impression of how much work will be required to achieve your goal, and that you capture all of the required material once you are on location. There's nothing wrong with coming up with big ideas, big extravagant storyboards, and the potential to make this the most exciting, highly produced documentary of all time. Chances are it's going to be very difficult to achieve. If you have this idea that's unachievable, ask yourself, what is the essence of that idea? And how can I extract that essence and achieve it in a different way? For today's assignment, it's time for you to begin assembling a production schedule for your project. Identify locations, travel time, and monetary costs. Even a basic production schedule will give you some sense of how involved your production is realistically going to be, revealing whether your ideas are achievable or, for the moment, beyond your means. Armed with that information, you will be able to refine your production plan. Identify the essence of those elements which you cannot yet achieve, and reflect upon how you might achieve some version of them with the resources which are available to you. As you refine your plan, an ever more realistic model for your production will emerge. You will ultimately produce a plan which is manageable, and once you begin planning specific elements, such as when and where you will travel, you will produce an actionable plan, a step-by-step blueprint, which should take you from where you are right now through to a completed project ready for dissemination.